In the volatile Horn of Africa, alliances shift rapidly, and the region's political landscape is constantly being redrawn. Here, every decision can have far-reaching consequences, not just for Somalia, but for its neighbors and the wider world. In January 2026, Somalia shocked the region by abruptly severing all security and economic ties with the United Arab Emirates. The announcement sent ripples through diplomatic circles, as few expected such a dramatic move from Mogadishu. The government declared every agreement with the UAE null and void, from defense cooperation to port management, undoing years of Emirati investment and military training. This sudden reversal left many wondering what had triggered such a complete break. The move was a decisive rejection of what Mogadishu saw as undue Emirati influence and a threat to national unity. Somali leaders argued that foreign involvement had undermined their sovereignty and fueled internal divisions. Within days, Somalia's defense minister was in Doha, signing a new security pact with Qatar, UAE's main Gulf rival. This swift pivot signaled a clear intention to realign Somalia's alliances and seek new partners on the international stage. This wasn't a reaction to a single incident, but a calculated pivot. Somalia was betting that a new alliance with Qatar would better serve its sovereignty. The government hoped this partnership would bring fresh investment and support, while reducing outside interference. The world is left to wonder, was this a bold assertion of independence or a risky gamble that could deepen Somalia's instability? International observers are watching closely, aware that the outcome could set a precedent for other nations in the region. The stakes are high, and the consequences could reshape the Horn of Africa's balance of power. With new alliances forming and old ones dissolving, the region faces a period of uncertainty and potential upheaval. Somalia's break with the UAE marks a turning point, one that could either strengthen its sovereignty and independence or plunge it into greater uncertainty and risk. The world now waits to see which path Somalia will take. On January 12, 2026, Somalia's Council of Ministers made a bold and historic announcement that would reverberate far beyond its borders. In a decisive move, the government declared that the UAE was undermining Somalia's sovereignty, challenging the very foundation of the nation's independence. The Somali government accused the UAE of bypassing Mogadishu's authority and fueling dangerous fragmentation by striking deals directly with regional states, rather than respecting the central government's role. Defense Minister Ahmed Moalim Fiki stood firm, declaring that Somalia would no longer tolerate foreign partners who threatened its unity or attempted to divide the country for their own interests. The message from Mogadishu was unmistakable. All international agreements must be approved by the federal government. No more secret side deals with regional authorities, no more undermining the nation's integrity. This was about Somalia choosing itself, asserting its right to self-determination, and refusing to simply swap one Gulf partner for another in a cycle of dependency. For many Somalis, the government's stand was a powerful and patriotic rejection of neo-colonial influence, a moment of national pride and unity. The government framed the diplomatic break as a crucial step toward re-establishing a unified foreign policy and reclaiming its rightful place as the sole representative of the Somali people on the world stage. Mogadishu was drawing a clear line in the sand. Somalia would no longer be a playground for competing regional powers or outside interference. The era of fragmented authority was over. At least, that was the hope. For Somalia, this was more than a policy shift. It was a declaration of dignity and a vision for a united future. Mogadishu's sweeping decree targeted all UAE agreements, including lucrative port contracts in Somaliland, Puntland, and Jubaland. But enforcing this decision proved far more difficult than announcing it. Somaliland dismissed the federal government's move, insisting its DP World port deal was sovereign and untouchable. Puntland's leaders also rejected the cancellation, citing their constitutional right to make economic deals. Both regions saw Mogadishu's action as an overreach and vowed to maintain their ties with the UAE. The result: open defiance from regional states, exposing deep fissures in Somalia's political landscape. The battle over port control became a proxy war for Somalia's future, centralized authority versus regional autonomy. Even as the UAE withdrew, its influence lingered, fueling a constitutional crisis that threatened to tear the country further apart. Two pivotal events pushed Somalia over the edge, setting off a chain reaction that would reshape its foreign relations. First, Israel's recognition of Somaliland's independence in December 2025 infuriated Mogadishu, which saw the move as a direct threat to Somalia's territorial integrity and unity. Somali officials quickly blamed the UAE for facilitating the move, pointing to the Emirates' close ties with Israel and their growing influence in the Horn of Africa. For Somalia, this was a red line. Having a supposed partner allegedly working to break the country apart was simply unacceptable, and public outrage erupted across the nation. The UAE's deep involvement in Somaliland, especially at the strategic Berbera port, only heightened suspicions and fueled accusations of foreign interference in Somali affairs. Then, in January 2026, a UAE military plane violated Somali airspace without permission, flying in under the radar and raising immediate alarms in Mogadishu. The aircraft was reportedly evacuating a Yemeni separatist leader, a move that further stoked Somali fears of regional plots and secret deals. This brazen act was seen as undeniable proof that the UAE disregarded Somalia's sovereignty and was willing to act unilaterally, regardless of the consequences. The very next day, Somalia responded by banning all Emirati military and cargo flights, signaling a dramatic escalation in the standoff. These incidents crystallized Mogadishu's deepest fears. The UAE was bypassing federal authority and treating Somalia as a pawn in its wider regional ambitions, undermining the government's legitimacy. The break was now inevitable, as trust between the two countries collapsed almost overnight. Somalia's leaders saw no choice but to act decisively to reassert control over their territory and airspace, determined to defend their nation's sovereignty at all costs. The rift was now complete, and for the foreseeable future, irreparable, leaving Somalia to navigate a new and uncertain diplomatic landscape. The fallout was immediate. The UAE began withdrawing personnel and military assets, leaving Somali military bases and training centers empty. Abu Dhabi's investments, nearly $800 million in ports and security, were suddenly at risk. The UAE lost not just money, but a strategic foothold in the Horn of Africa. For Somalia, the loss was just as acute. The UAE had funded thousands of soldiers and provided vital support against Al-Shabaab and ISS. The sudden vacuum left Somali commanders scrambling to fill the gap. Who would pay the soldiers? Who would provide air support and intelligence? The Emirati exit exposed the dangers of relying on a single foreign partner for national security. Somalia now faced the urgent task of finding new support to prevent a resurgence of extremist violence. The stakes: national security and the fragile progress made against insurgents. As the UAE left, Somalia turned swiftly to Qatar. Within a week, Defense Minister Fiki was in Doha, signing a sweeping defense and security pact. Qatar promised military training, security expertise, and help developing Somalia's defense capabilities. Unlike the UAE, Qatar focused on supporting central governments, not regional actors. The new alliance was a clear message: Somalia had chosen a partner more respectful of its federal institutions. But could Qatar match the scale of Emirati support? The answer remained uncertain. The success of this partnership would depend on how quickly Qatar could deliver, and whether it could avoid creating new dependencies. For Somalia, the hope was that Qatar's support would fill the vacuum and help maintain momentum against insurgents. Somalia's pivot from the UAE to Qatar is part of a larger Gulf rivalry for influence in the Horn of Africa. The UAE's loss of Somali ports and bases is a major setback for its regional ambitions. Saudi Arabia, too, played a role, reportedly pressuring Somalia to distance itself from the UAE and denying Emirati overflight rights. Somalia now looks to Riyadh for financial support, further shifting the regional balance. But this realignment risks deepening Somalia's internal divisions, as Somaliland and Puntland defy Mogadishu and maintain ties with the UAE. The Horn of Africa could become a battleground for Gulf rivalries, undermining state-building and security. Somalia's bold move redraws the map of influence, but also imports new risks. The region's stability now depends on whether these new alliances foster cooperation or fuel more proxy conflicts. The outcome will shape the future of the Horn of Africa. Somalia's break with the UAE is a high-stakes gamble for sovereignty. The government claims it's a historic stand for unity and independence, but the risks are immense. Internal divisions have deepened, with regional states openly defying Mogadishu's authority. The security vacuum left by the UAE could embolden extremist groups if Qatar's support falls short. Somalia stands at a crossroads. Will this move lead to more respectful foreign engagement, or simply swap one patron for another? The coming months will test the government's ability to manage dissent, secure its territory, and deliver stability. The true cost of sovereignty will be measured by Somalia's capacity to weather the storm it has unleashed. The world is watching to see if this bold move brings lasting unity or greater turmoil.